Now we're going to talk about the media and the support for ISIL, isn't it, Diana?
Yes, it's a very important topic to talk about.
Yes. Well, ISIL is known for its extensive and effective use of propaganda. ISIL is widely known for its videos of beheadings, mass executions, public executions of both soldiers and civilians, including journalists, workers, politicians, and its destruction of cultural heritage. Despite the images of brutality, ISIS presents itself as an emotionally attractive place where people belong, where they can be brothers or sisters. They want to transmit this emotion for other Muslims, you know?
Okay, and no matter how crazy this may sound, but there are groups that actually are supporting ISIL. The Terrorism Research and Analysis Consortium, also called TRAC, has identified approximately 60 jihadist groups in 30 countries that have pledged allegiance to support for ISIL. Members of the following groups have declared support for ISIL, either fully or in part: Boko Haram, Ansar al-Sharia, Islamic Movement of Uzbekistan, Jundallah, Caucasus Emirate, Khalifa Islamiyya Mindanao, among others.
Well, now we have Mariana, and we sent her to a conference from the UN. How are you, Mariana?
Yeah, here I am in the conference where the first Secretary of Human Rights is talking about the treatment of civilians in Syria.
According to the United Nations reports, ISIL has killed hundreds of prisoners over war and 1,000 civilians. In 2014, the UN Commission of Inquiry on Syria said that ISIL was committing crimes against humanity, war crimes, and human rights abuses. The Human Rights Watch has documented public flogging, executions, beheadings, and political motivated assassinations of judges, public officials, members of security, and other forces. During their Iraq conflict in 2014, ISIL released dozens of videos showing its ill treatment of civilians, many of whom apparently have been targeted based on their religion or ethnicity. The UN reported that in 17 days, from the 5th to the 22nd of June, ISIL has killed more than 1,000 Iraq civilians and has injured more than 1,000. The motive of my conference has been for my public to take conscious of all the damage ISIL has made. Thank you all for coming.
Well, that was all for today's conference. Thank you, First Secretary, for your cooperation.
Syrian children at the age of 6 years old are being recruited or kidnapped from their families and taken to military or religious camps where they'll learn from the ISILs. Children are also being used as human shields in front lines or blood transferred to Syrian soldiers. Those children under the age of 15 go to Sharia camps where they learn of religion, and those who are older than 16 can go to military camps. These are innocent lives we are talking about. We must pray for the future of these generations. We have to create conscience for a better future.
I have here one of my best duties, a great and famous journalist, Carlos. How are you?
Good, thank you, Luis. Hey, have you heard all the attacks to the members of the press?
No, what can you tell me?
Well, the Committee to Protect Journalists states, without a free press, few other human rights are attainable. ISIL has tortured and murdered local journalists, creating the Reporters Without Borders, called the new black holes, in areas controlled by ISIL. ISIL fighters have reported that they have been given written directions to kill and capture journalists.
Really?
Yes.
And tell me, how do you feel about the beheadings, the mass executions?
Well, an unknown number of Syrians and Iraqs, several Lebanese soldiers, male and female, Kurdish fighters, 2 American journalists 1 American and 2 British workers, 30 Ethiopian Christians, and 21 Egyptians, Christians, and Lebanese have been beheaded by ISIL. And ISIL uses beheadings to intimidate local populations and has released several propaganda, I could say, like videos aimed like to harm Western countries.
Nice. Yeah, I heard that. ISIL was reported that they have been beheading like about 100 foreign fighters and deserters who tried to leave the Syria and to leave al-Raqqa. They also do mass executions from Syrian soldiers and Iraqi soldiers, civilians. I heard that they also make like the prisoners to do their own graves, and then they kill them and push them into it.
Yeah, I heard that, so thanks for having me.
No, thank you. Now, we have Diana at the press conference in New York City from the UNESCO's director, Irina Bokova. Diana, we go with you.
Yes, here we are at the conference of the UNESCO's Director General, Irina Bokova. She has warned that ISIL has destroyed the Iraq's cultural heritage in what she has called cultural cleaning. So let's start with the conference.
We don't have time to lose because extremists are trying to erase the identity because they know that if there is no identity, there is no country, there is no history. This is a way to destroy identity. You deprive them of their culture, you deprive them of their history, their heritage, and that is why it goes hand in hand with genocide. Along with the physical persecution, they want to eliminate, to delete the memory of these different cultures. We think it's appalling, and this is not acceptable. For the Yazidis, religion is oral, nothing is written. By destroying their places of worship, they are killing their cultural memory. It is the same with the Christians. It really is a threat beyond belief. To finance its activities, ISIL is stealing artifacts from Syria and Iraq and sending them to Europe to be sold. It is estimated that ISIL raises 200 million American dollars a year from cultural looting. UNESCO is working with Interpol, national customs authorities, museums, and major auction houses in attempts to prevent looted items from being sold. ISIL occupied Mosul Museum, the second most important museum in Iraq, as it was about to reopen after years of rebuilding following the Iraq War, saying that the statues were against Islam and threatening to destroy the museum's contents. IS has used bulldozers to crush buildings and archaeological sites. They also destroyed Christians, prophets, tombs, and buildings from the Assyrian city of Nimrud. ISIL has burned or stolen collections of books and papers from the various locations, including the Central Library of Mosul, the library at the University of Mosul, a Sunni Muslim library, a 265-year-old Latin church, a monastery of the Dominican Fathers, and the Mosul Museum Library. The stated goal is to destroy all non-Islamic books. We have a problem, and we have to stand together against ISIL.
Well, that was part of the conference of the director of the UNESCO. We go back to the studio.
Unfortunately, these events have created a lot of xenophobia around the world, you know?
Yes, and also nowadays in United States and in general in the world, there is an uprising level of Islamophobia and terror of bombarding Muslims.
Yeah, I heard that. So, I heard that candidate Donald Trump wanted to ban like Muslims from the United States.
Well, I didn't hear that, but I just heard that French people,
Yeah.
after the attacks in Paris, it's like discriminating Muslims just because of they are Muslims, because they are afraid of they to attack them.
Right, like their dress code and all that thing.
Only because they are Muslims, because they go to the sinafela or they dress like Muslim people, they discriminate them.
That's not cool. I also heard from some social experiments that people like really I don't want to say hate, but they are really afraid of this kind of people, and they talk like bad stuff about them, you know.
They are very rude to Muslims, and we have to understand that not because they are Muslims they are terrorists or they are going to attack us or any kind of that.
Yeah, we have to remember that Islam is a religion that preaches love, that preaches a God's love and a union between them.
Just like any other religion.
Yeah,
in the
it's
world.
not about bombs and a dress code or guns and fights. No, it's nothing of that.
We want to create conscience with all the public in their houses because we need to understand Muslim people is not bad people.
They are our brothers. We are brothers as a humanity, and we have to stick together. Now that we have talked about the xenophobia and Islamophobia around the world, I want you to talk us a little bit about the worldwide vision. So why don't you start your segment?
Okay, well, I'm here today to share with you and analyze the world's vision about Islamic State and Caliphate.
Thank you.
The group's declaration of a new caliphate in June 2014 and its adoption of the name Islamic State have been criticized and ridiculed by Muslim scholars and rival Islamists. President Barack Obama said that ISIL is not Islamic, on the basis that no religion condones the killing of innocents and that no government recognizes the group as a state. France's Foreign Minister Laurent Fabius said that this is a terrorist group and not a state. I do not recommend using the term Islamic State because it blurs the line between Islam, Muslim, and Islamists. So thank you. That was all for today in the Worldwide Vision.
Thank you.
We all remember the Twin Towers, but what does Al-Qaeda has to do with all of this? Al-Nusra Front is a branch of Al-Qaeda operating in Syria. This group has launched many attacks and bombings, mostly against targets affiliated or supportive Syrian government. There have been media reports that many of these al-Nusra's foreign fighters have left to join al-Baghdadis to ISIL.
In February 2014, after continued tensions, Al-Qaeda publicly disavowed any relations with ISIL. However, ISIL and al-Nusra Front still cooperate with each other occasionally when they fight against the Syrian government. ISIL and al-Nusra share a loathing for modernity, and for the West, and they both subscribe to the same perverted interpretations of Islam.
The main difference between Al-Qaeda and ISIL are largely political. For Al-Qaeda, violence is a means to an end, and for ISIS, it's an end itself. However, although al-Zawahiri denied ISIL's legitimacy, he suggested that there was still room for cooperation against common enemies, and said that if he were in the Iraq, he would fight alongside ISIL.
Now we're gonna answer some Twitter questions. The first one is from Al Woods from California. How much territory does IS control? Well, Al, in September 2014, the director of the U.S. National Counterterrorism Center said IS controlled much as the Tiger Euphrates River Basin, an area similar in the size of the United Kingdom, or over about 2,100 square kilometers. A year later, the U.S. Defense Department declared that the IS frontiers is much of northern and central Iraq. Syria has been pushed back significantly by U.S. leading contra airstrikes and ground operations.
Mark Jensen from California says, what about its targets outside Iraq and Syria? Hello Mark, greetings to California. In late 2015, IS began to lay claim to attacks outside its territory. An Egyptian affiliate, Sinai province, said it downed a Russian passenger plane in the Sinai Peninsula, killing all 228 on board. And then on November 13, 2015, at least 128 people were killed in a wave of attacks around Paris. IS said it was behind the violence. French President François Hollande described it as an act of war.
Now, Alice Edwards from New Jersey wants to know, how many weapons does ISIL have? Well, Alice, ISIL fighters, it is said that they have access to bombs, explosives, small weapons, anti-aircraft guns. They also have access to heavy weapons, to rocket launchers, to truck-mounted machine guns and tanks. And it is a rumor that they also have access to biochemical weapons. So now, tweet us your questions at hashtag the News Incorporation or hashtag Islamic State Edition. Thank you. So, that was everything from today's special edition from the Islamic State. Thank you for watching and don't forget to subscribe. Goodbye.
Goodbye.